What your job and my job is for the 2025 bull run is quite simple. Follow the smart money, right? Follow what the experts are buying to front run the dumb degen money and then dump on the degen money. It's as simple as that. That's how we're going to make our money in 2025. And so in this video, I have painstakingly spent over 16 hours on research and just sorting through the most mundane, boring stuff to give you what the experts are buying for 2025. This video, every single step throughout it, you are actually going to take valuable information in just the individual sections itself. Altogether, if you watch the whole way through, guys, you're going to learn some pretty important things. At the very, very end, I'm going to take through all of what I've learned from this. It's actually disproved some of the things that I initially thought about what we need to buy for 2025. Because again, we're analyzing what the experts are buying, but also it has confirmed some of the things I have been saying as well. And it is good to know that we are in the right direction for most parts. So I cannot wait to share with you what I've found here. Now, again, each individual part of this video, you are going to learn something new. If you just took away these individual things, you're going to learn something pretty good, right? You're going to take away valuable information. Now, the first thing is this, right? What the best venture capital firms are in the space. Now, I know for a fact this is something a lot of you base your research around. It shouldn't be what you base your research around. What you should base your research around is what they're buying and what they're looking at buying. But ultimately, again, a lot of you can still do this, right? If a lot of good VCs run it, it does help with people wanting to buy it because degens want to buy what they think the pros are buying, right? They don't see beneath the surface. So the reason why I've crossed off Coinbase and Binance on this list is because they have a tendency, even though they are typically speaking, and what I used to say years ago, as good investors, the reason why I've crossed them off is because they have a vested interest in the projects they are going to list or looking to list on their exchanges, which means we no longer are looking for quality projects anymore. What we're looking for is just simply what's going to come onto our exchange. Now, you could argue, well, that's a good thing because they might have more of a reason to want to list them. That's true. I understand. We're not looking for that. We're looking for 2025, specifically speaking. We're not looking for crappy projects here, okay? So I have listed goodness knows how many. I've actually gone through each and every single one of these just to make sure they've got a great track history. So in the past, they've found good investments, or that they, at least invested in good projects, and also that they have focused on quality projects now. Now, you will find a lot of these projects, companies, VC firms do double up when the projects they do buy, because again, the more you have, the more it is a bit of a reassurance thing like, hey, if X VC is invested in this, which might be a very difficult thing for the company to do, the crypto project to do, that gives you a little bit more support and confidence in that project. So number one thing was to identify what the best VC firms were in the space, okay? These are the experts we are looking to chase. The next thing we had to do was narrow our scope down. What are we looking for when we go through these VC firms, right? Well, this is the criteria. If you hold with me here, this is the criteria I think you guys need to do and follow as well. What I'm choosing between is number one, what I think will do the best in 2025. This is what altcoins we're looking for here, by the way. Number two, what I know the most about and can therefore spot standout projects or the meme. I don't want to go too heavy into gaming because I know absolutely nothing about anything to do with gaming altcoins. I know everything about all these infrastructure projects and stuff like that. And number three, what will grow the most based on external market research? Okay, so one we're looking at again is what I think will do the best based on the narratives. Number two, again, what I personally like looking at. And number three, again, external market research. What is going to grow? Cloud computing, cybersecurity, AI. They're going to grow apparently to this report here from Citigroup's subsidiary, right? And so we have to understand these things. So I've actually gone and picked out my favorites and also ones that ranked. Okay, so I've gotten rid of the ones that actually are quite low on my personal score. Now, again, I mentioned earlier in the video that I had some of my initial beliefs challenged in this, and I have changed my stance on a few of these narratives that I know a lot of you do like. So we're going to go over those in a second. Now, what is the next thing we need to do here is find a criteria. We need to, obviously, we can't just research. I mean, there's like thousands of altcoins out there, and a lot of these companies do invest in quite a diverse amount of altcoins. So for me, researching through, and I did have to go, by the way, through each and every single one of these venture capitalists and find which altcoins that they were investing in. There's thousands, right? So I had to give myself some criteria, separate the wheat from the chaff. So number one was investments within the last 22 months. So again, we're looking since basically the end or the start of 2022 or the end of 2021. So newer type investments. Number two, 3+ venture capital investors need to be invested in any one altcoin at any one time. Number three, funding rounds of 10 million plus in total. So they have to have a fair bit of money behind them. Again, kind of a vote of confidence. Number 4, possibility of a token. Not always, but it is good to know that the project we're looking at could definitely or does have a token we can buy. That's the whole point of the video, right? Is to make money. Number 5, within the narratives. Okay, so they have to fit within my narratives. And number 6, higher funding amount, fewer investors ideally. What does this mean? Well, if there's a funding round of $100 million, if there's $100 million this altcoin has raised and there's only 3 investors, that you can confidently say, rough math speaking, is like $33 million from each investor. Now, if each of those investors are top tier investors, you can say that 1, the criteria that altcoin had given itself or the investors was very high. They said, hey, we don't want any crappy investors. We want only the quality investors. And they've distributed that into 3 different ones. You can also say, well, that's very centralized. It is, but need I say more? We're looking for quality here, okay? So it's very, very good to see higher funding amount, lower investors. On the contrary, if it was a $100 million funding round, that's great. But if there's 1,000 investors, well, they've set the bar quite low. Okay, let's move on now to extrapolate the data. This is what you're here for. Now, keep in mind, by the way, I went through every single one of these venture capital firms. I don't know how many there was. Again, this video took me over 16 hours to create. And so how I did this was going through Crunchbase. If you guys don't know Crunchbase, it's a $100 subscription per month. You can go on here, you can type in a VC firm. Let's, for example, I mean, I haven't signed into my laptop over here, but let's type in Pantera, for example, and you're going to see what I'm talking about, right? So you can click the investments, right? 225. This is the lower side of things. Anderson Horowitz is like 1,300. And so, of course, I'm not signed in, but you'll be able to click show more and you'll have the whole list of all the altcoins. Now, I went through each and every single one of the invested projects. What's the funding amount? Who else is invested? And I, long story short, got the got the result of what you can see over here. So yes, out of all those altcoins, I would have searched through, God knows, probably at least 1,000 altcoins. This was the list. So yeah, all right, not a lot, okay? But the good thing was the criteria definitely helped me out. It definitely got the, pulled the wheat from the chaff. So funding rounds for altcoins between 2022 to 2023. So basically over 2 years, essentially, right? So we have a few. I'm not going to go through these. What I'm going to do instead is give you guys access to this sheet completely for free. First link down below. So you can go through each and every single one of these narratives. But what I extracted from all of this research and from these is the more valuable information, right? So the premise of this video, what altcoins are experts buying? So I've given you that right here. Okay, so go through, again, I've listed what the total funding amount is, not for a single funding round, not for a seed, venture 1, venture 2, venture 3 rounds. I've gone through what's the total funding and then what venture firms have invested across all the rounds, okay? So Hashed, NGC, Fembushi, Kinetic, Polychain. The more they have, the better, because again, the venture firms I've listed here are only the venture firms I believe are like S tier. So the fact that, for example, this project over here called Connect has 5 venture firms from the S tier investor, that's quite good. All right, that's quite good. Now, again, there are plenty of sort of projects on this list that actually have less than the criteria I described. All of these altcoins have above 10 million total invested in them. All of them do, right? But there are a few out there that have, like, for example, Block Native, right? That have, again, they meet the criteria for how much is invested, but they don't quite have the full 3 limit minimum venture capital firms I wanted. But in saying that, I have, in these situations, included them on the list if they were supported by some other VCs or individuals that give me some more bullishness in the project, right? Now, if I don't have that, for example, in this list, we have the Bankless co-hosts, David Hoffman and Ryan Sean Adams. But, some of the cases over here, for example, we have the Stellar Development Foundation, we have Circle themselves. In other cases, we go over here, where is one? We have Naval, a very, very prominent VC himself. We have like Sam Altman, Tim Draper, Peter Thiel over here. We have Balaji. So some of these projects do fall in a different category, and that's why I have also added them. Plus, I'm not going to lie, some of these VCs themselves do have a higher standard than others on this list, even though they're all S tier in my opinion, right? Now, the one category, you might have spotted already, that I haven't actually been able to fill anything out on was AI. And I go over this in a minute with my actual findings. I tell you why I didn't find any that have matched my criteria. Keep in mind, there was hundreds of AI projects out there, hundreds saying, and they've been invested in these projects, right? With a 1, 2, or 3 invested, but they just didn't meet the criteria in its entirety. And I want to definitely go over that in a minute here. So guys, please use this sheet, go through, have a look which altcoins they're buying. Again, remember, some of these don't actually have their tokens out yet. That's fine. That actually means we're early. Some of them might never have coins at all. But again, what we're looking for here is where they're spending their damn money. The findings. What did I find in all of this? This is the true juice. So let's start from the top. Number one, zero knowledge proofs are a very hot subject. I am now ranking them from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. So before, in my narrative list, if you guys have watched the channel, I ranked them an 8. Well, now I'm ranking them a 10. I saw a lot of ZKP-based projects. Matter of fact, if we come over here, I think there are a few, right? These two here, but keep in mind, again, these are the cream of the crop. These aren't just a run-of-the-mill. There were a lot of really good projects, but none that made it to this list besides these two quality ones themselves. And they are quality projects. Number two, there were a lot of smaller AI plays. This reminds me of the dot-com boom, but none made it to the list, right? I can see a lot of demand ramping up, which makes me more bullish on the memeable standout plays like Fetch, Potenza, so on and so forth. So again, there is a lot of demand happening, just no standout projects. So for the AI altcoins out there that are already making waves, like the ones I mentioned, then most definitely it's still a great narrative, and that's why I've still left it a 10 out of 10. Number three, not as many new layer 1 or layer 0 networks out there, which makes me more bullish on the current standout networks, which will remain a 10 out of 10 score. So it's important we recognize this, right? While there's no new ones being created, that's actually okay. We don't want more layer 1 networks. We don't want more infrastructure-based networks like that. We want to have the ones that are already out there prosper. It's a very hard market to crack, and so that's why I'm more bullish on the ones that are already out there. Number four, a fair few new layer 2 networks are looking to scale Ethereum. These might start to dwindle down soon though, like layer 0 and layer 1, once the masses start utilizing Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, so on and so forth, okay? So if you go look at the list I've got here, there are a few layer 2s coming out, but of course, again, I think it's going to be the same situation where we start to find the true, wheat separate itself, and then the chaff, which is even some of these new layer 2 networks begin to fall down as well, okay? Privacy is also being pushed as well, seeing as though this narrative is going to be quite important as CBDCs pop up. That could be one of the reasons why. I also think because, again, you have the ZKP technology as well. Privacy is pretty important. I've actually been reached out by a few privacy-based altcoins to do reviews on them as well. And so I know it is a very, very big niche coming up soon. So privacy will stay a 10 out of 10 on my list. Now, the best investment firm I came across was Fenbushi. This was a very interesting find for myself, and it should be for you guys as well. If you guys spot Fenbushi, I'm not going to write that out, but you guys know what I mean. If you guys see Fenbushi Capital invested in an altcoin, it's actually a very good thing. Fenbushi had a very few amount of altcoins actually purchased recently, that is, but the ones that they had purchased were, I could tell, very strategic. They can spot what's coming up, and it might be a place that a lot of you guys want to study moving forward, okay? Definitely a standout, definitely an S tier amongst the S tiers itself. So the future, in my opinion, will test if this is all true, right? If Fenbushi really has the good plays, it has in the past, but let's see if the ones it has picked now truly blossom. Now, next up, surprisingly, there's a lot of funding out there for NFT projects. This got me quite interested, right? Kind of like AI as well. This makes me believe that I should rank NFTs higher for 2025. And I currently rank them a 4 out of 10. I am thinking of giving them at least a 7 out of 10 in this case. When I say there's a lot, guys, I'm not underestimating it. There was a lot of altcoins out there that had a lot of funding, right? And maybe not as much, obviously they fell short on a few criteria here and there. Now, there weren't obviously some that I was looking for, right? I actually went ahead and looked at security, adding security to the list because there were some excellent security networks out there. I did kind of put Arkham Intelligence in there, by the way, for all you who are wondering. But I decided to add gaming, even though gaming wasn't a part of my criteria over here. I didn't want to look into gaming, but there was so many good gaming plays out there. I just had to do it. But of course, in that same regard, I kind of grouped NFTs in there as well. I didn't want to talk about NFTs, but it did surprise me, right? So a lot of them wouldn't have made it to the list, but again, a lot of them would have as well. So it kind of blew me away a bit. Likewise, a lot of funding for gaming in the metaverse or virtual worlds is what it's called when you look them up officially. So that was quite bullish as well. DeFi seems to be a highly invested sector as well. A lot of new protocols looking to incorporate trading features, right? So spot trading itself. It's great to see DeFi has actually pivoted now. The standard is becoming a lot higher than what it was before. These yield farming based networks and tokenization, it's all flourishing. If you just go and spend the time that I did over a course of a week, not like I did over a couple of days, you will be blown away at how much DeFi is actually expanding, and it's really good to see it's growing. So that got me thinking I possibly will look at, ranking DeFi a little bit higher. I think it's like a 3 or a 4 out of 10 right now. I think it does deserve at least a 6. And lastly, a VC fund called Hard Yakka, which is an Australian slang term, kept presenting itself in a lot of the great investments, maybe one to keep an eye on. So I just thought, hey, I didn't add to this list, but upon my research, I did find a lot of these projects out there did have this Hard Yakka, and I had a look at a Hard Yakka, and they actually aren't one that invests in every single which coin that comes across their desk. They obviously do a little bit of strategy here. So yeah, it was quite surprising to find. So maybe it is one that you guys decide to add to your list and do some more research. Maybe the altcoins that you have invested in do have a mention of Hard Yakka. Now guys, that will do it for this video. I really appreciate you watching. Go ahead, review the sheet that I have here. Again, I put a lot of hours into it, so it's going to save you a lot of time, suffice to say. And so with that being said, take good care all. Talk to you all soon. Bye.